Well, welcome back to Mr. Obsolete's Vintage Homesteading. Well, we're out in our winter quarters. This will be our first video out here. And we have a bench in here and so we can work on small engines and lawnmowers, all kinds of different stuff. Magnetos like we're going to talk about today. Okay, well, we're going to be talking about high tension magnetos on small gas engines that we all rely on. You know, chainsaws, lawnmowers, trimmers, water pumps, you name it. And the high tension magneto was invented in 1901 by the Robert Bosch company in Germany. And the interesting thing too is, along with that, they perfected spark plugs and were the first one to really put them on the market in 1903. But anyway, you know, you have to have several things to make a gas engine run. You have to have fuel, air, and spark made by the magneto. So here's your typical little Briggs & Stratton engine. You see the coil sitting right here. The points and condenser are underneath the flywheel here. So here's the components. You have a flywheel with a magnet on it. Have a coil. It's got the spark plug wire, and wire goes to the points. And you have a set of contact points along with a condenser, a spark plug. So what made the high tension magneto so good was that earlier ignition systems, which they call low tension, run up to about 3,000 volts. And high tension is 3,000 volts and more, and modern technology ones clear up to 20,000 volts. So how a magneto works is you have magnetic lines of force, and when a magnet goes across here like that, you can see that breaks the lines of magnetic force, and the result is electricity. And so the initial voltage goes into the coil here, and there's two sets of windings, low and high, and then the energy is stored in the condenser, and when the points open, it fires a spark plug. So pretty interesting how they figured that all out. So anyway, we're going to show what the different pieces do and how they work, and I've got a bunch of magnetos here to show you. So we'll set this aside. So we're going to talk about how to test these. And so the first thing we wanted to check was our magnets. That's good. So one thing a lot of people miss on the magneto system when they put in new points and make the thing better, you can see it's got rust on here, and that makes the lines of force haywire. So this stuff needs to be cleaned off. The magnet just has little pieces of metal in here, striations, and so you always want to sand them in the same direction that they're put in there. And then once they're clean, I take clear acrylic spray enamel and spray over them to keep them from rusting again. And we do the same thing on the coil. You can see that these are pretty corroded here, as is this. And there again, there's little things that you need to check on these things to make sure they're good. Like on the coil, even if it's good, you still want to get rid of the rust. And still on there, but there again, these are just metal laminations. And you don't want to sand across them because it'll get embedded down in between them, and there again screw up the magnetic lines of force. So you always want to go the same direction that the laminations are. So it'll take too long to clean it up. You can see the metal starting to clean up. And another thing a lot of people miss where the screws go into the block, there's a ground wire right here, and a lot of times they get corroded on the back side and on the block too, and if you don't have a good ground there, a lot of times you can have trouble with your ignitions, especially when it gets hot and loses the ground. So you always want to make sure this is nice and clean like that. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to test the coil. So what we need is a volt amp meter, ohm meter. We set it on ohm settings. This one is an automatic ranging one. It's a really top-notch one. But a lot of the cheaper ones you can set the different ones, so you set the setting to 20,000 ohms. Okay, well, there's two tests we do on the coil. One's for the primary windings, the other's for the secondary windings. So the primary windings are the one that comes from the points. And so we go to ground under here, and this one has quite a bit of resistance in it. That should be between 500 and 2500 ohms. So a high resistance like this will make it not work well. It has too much resistance. And the other one is a secondary, and that's where we do the plug here. So we got to get a, yeah, so that one's way high too. So this coil would probably run, but when it would get hot it would quit. So here's a coil out of a marine engine outboard motor. So let's see if we can kind of reading we get here. Yeah, that's more like it's supposed to be, 4600 ohms. That's 19 ohms. Now, the one thing that's interesting, coils in 2-cycle engines can have a lot higher resistance for a hotter spark than 4 strokes. So that concludes that. So the next component we have is contact points. Okay, well, the next component we're dealing with are the points, ignition points. So you have the base here, which is grounded to the base of the magneto, and right here is 1/2 of the contact point, and this is the part that moves. It also has a contact point right here, and this part here rubs against the cam, and so that opens and closes the points. That's what triggers your spark plug. Okay, well, the contact points here are corroded and dirty, both of them. So those need to be cleaned in order to function properly. And points wear out over time because the electricity going through them transfers metal from one to the other, and so you get like little pillars of metal. In the past, I used to use a points file, and if you have a lot of pitting in them, it means your condenser is bad. So anyway, this would remove the metal, and the contact point has like a hard chrome surface on it to keep it from wearing. And you take the file to it, it'll take that covering off, and it'll burn up a lot quicker. So I don't file the points, and here's what I do. Let's take a nail file here. And you can see most of that's off there already. Yeah, you can see right in the very center there's the pit. And that, like I say, that's normal. Yeah, see, that came up pretty good. So alright, so for the final polish on them, I use 1000th grit paper. This doesn't take the metal off the hard chrome surface, it just polishes everything super nice. So you see that? It looks like new. Okay, well, we're going to test a condenser, and there's two ways. And if you're like me, Mr. Obsolete, I just happen to have an obsolete condenser tester. And how it works, there's a setting in here. And it loads it, charges it, and then if it's good, this light comes on. And the other way is we'll test it is with the ohm meter again. Well, the first thing you want to do on a condenser, you want to hook up a lead and you want to touch it, the case, to this. And that'll, if there's any electricity stored in it, it'll remove it. So what we do here, okay, well, we're going to turn it on here. And we're going to have a good ground. And then we'll go here. And so the light is on, but it's hard to see, so I will turn the light off real quick. There, you can see that. That's a good condenser. But since I know nobody but me has one of these, we'll test it the other way that everybody else can. Okay, well, gotta make sure we got a good ground here. We'll test the other lead right here. And you'll see on the meter here that the voltage is going up, so that shows it's good. Do the same on this one. So we get no reading, so this one is absolutely no good. So what we're going to do now is I've got a bunch of different magnetos here, and I'll show you a little bit and talk about the history on them just a little bit. Okay, well, the last part of the equation is a spark plug. So you can test those with a meter also, but the main thing that ruins spark plugs is carbon from burning oil. Gets down inside of here and shorts them out. So if you have one that's carbon's in it, just replace it. They're cheap. So anyway, there again, we'll go back. This is an early magneto here. I think it was interesting with magnetos like this. You know, cars took off using magnetos right from the very beginning, and trucks and whatnot, tractors. But gas engines, a lot of stayed with the old style ignition stuff until about the late teens. But this particular magneto here is a 1921, and there's two types of operation on magnetos, a lot of them. This one's a rotary one where it spins and gear drives it, and this one had a push rod on the engine, would push this over and open the points, and it'd snap back and fire it. So we'll start with this one. So I'll be right back. Okay, well, the one other thing to check is the plug wire. Now, most early engines, the wire actually had a copper wire in it, so they rarely go bad. And you want to make sure that your connections are clean. So this goes down in the plug tower here. And you want to take a wire brush, clean the inside of these too, and put your spark plug here. Around here better. Then you'll need a ground here for the plug. So like I say, this is a flipper mag, so I'll have to flip it. So we'll start with a flipper mag here. A little hard to trip it here, but it has a blue-white spark. That's what you want. That's perfect. Yellow or reddish means it's weak. That can be from weak magnets, a bad condenser, different things. So we'll be back with a different mag. Okay, well, our first magneto was a Bosch and a flipper mag of the old style. Moving into the more modern era, this is a Fairbanks Morse X series. It's a rotary magneto. And so we'll turn the light off and show you the nice hot spark this thing has. Yeah, it's interesting with magnetos, the Fairbanks Morse was I think the largest seller of stationary engines that were used on farms and even big equipment, but in the early years they used Bosch magnetos. In 1923 they tooled up and made their own mag, which is this, which is a Model R, and I should say 1926, and that was a game changer. So Fairbanks Morse made virtually every part of the motor except for the spark plug. And Fairbanks mags are one of the best, if not the best, and the Wicos are close to it. There's a lot of companies got in it, and a lot of them just aren't that good. So anyway, here's another Fairbanks mag, and show you what's inside here. So you have a permanent magnet built in here. This is the main shaft, and it's got a flat spot here, and that's the cam for opening and closing the points. And then you have the coil in here. This piece here goes against the cap, and it goes out to the spark plug like this one. So I'll show you another feature on them. Here is another Fairbanks mag. This one has an impulse coupling, and what that does is there's little ears in there that swing out and lock, and when the engine is turning over it retards the spark, and so it fires a top dead center, and then as the engine starts running the weights move out, then it'll advance the timing, so that keeps the flywheels from kicking back and makes the engines a whole lot easier to start. So get our ground lead on here somewhere. See that really nice hot spark, and then when the thing is not engaged, you can see it puts out a really hot spark as it loads that armature up there. There's your regular. So impulse mag like this was a really big breakthrough. Made tractors and everything, multi-cylinder stuff, start so much easier. And here's another mag here. It's another Fairbanks. This one's kind of an unusual one. It just has a flat belt pulley on it, and it just runs all the time, so I don't know if that was for running a furnace or something like that. It was something unusual. So anyway, there you have all the components to high tension magneto for points. And so the last thing we'll do is get another couple of coils we can test here. So this is a chainsaw coil here, which we're all familiar with, that we all use all the time. So there again we go, get the leads out here, go to our ground. And this is 8,000. And like I say, 2-cycle coils generally are more resistance in them. So the other one, we've got to make sure we get a good contact in the inner piece in there. That shows 0, so this is bad. And here we have a brand new coil. This fits a Tecumseh and Clinton engines. So we got the one that comes to, one's the ground and the other's from the points. And then you get your contact here for your spark plug wire. Okay. Alright, well, we're going to test this Clinton Tecumseh coil. Okay, well, we got 8,800 ohms, and like I say, this is for a 2-cycle, so that's really good. And about the same on the other one, so like I say, this is a brand new coil, and that's absolutely perfect. Well, there you have it. High Tension Magneto 101. All the components and how they work. So we'll see you in the next exciting video, and we'll be doing low tension magnetos and ignition systems here before too long. The weather's too bad to do any work outside, so vintage is best.